It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with my colleague and friend Menno de Lange that is joining me in this project of about crisis. And Menno will talk with Stam, with Professor Stam, and we will introduce him to all of us. Thank you.
Okay, please call me Martin, and thank you for your invitation.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
Hey Martin, good to have you here. It's also for me an honor that you accepted the invitation to contribute to the event, Crisis in the Way In, the Way Out. Now, your background, you are an emeritus professor, outreach and innovation of the Amsterdam University, but I know you especially that we meet each other in 1968. We meet each other in Amsterdam, where more or less our revolutionary developmental process and started to happen. And we were both deeply involved in the reform activities in the university, but also in the whole school reform processes. The beauty was that 8 years ago, we met each other again, and then we could look back to our lives, how this beginning have set a life of change and action. So I'd like you now to invite you to introduce yourself, why you accepted this invitation, and yeah, what are your insights and things you'd like to share as a preparation for your lecture in September.
Okay, thank you for your nice, warm words, both of you. And I am glad for this invitation and possibility to exchange ideas and experiences about the theme I think is very important at the moment. Maybe it's the last crisis. It's not something we can't predict, but there is war with nuclear, so all kind of problems are at the moment as grapes combine to each other, and the outcome is not clear at all, not for no one. And well, a lot of you have experiences in how people has this pressure on themselves of these hard times, and well, with depressions and all kind of internal, let's say, internal things. My object is more or less what happens with communities and societies in these crises, and what would we call the crisis? Because I think that's important that we have more or less on that theme an idea of, well, whether you go in the inner life or you go to the outward life, the life in between people. In both, I think there is a need of definition of crisis, and also of how to, not how we got in, but also how to get out. So that will be my possibility to tell there something. My background is, I was a researcher, later professor of, let's say, in the social domain, so where people were educated for professions like social work, social care, community development, these kind of professions. And well, what I saw was that from the 80s on, a lot of these professions were more or less rationalized, like hospitals, schools, what we call the new public management governed that. I don't know if that's a term you know, but what the effect was that normally these professions were part of the passion of people. They had their proudness of, I'm this, I'm a teacher, I'm a doctor, or I'm a policeman, and in this rationality, this proudness was gone, was reorganized by making things more effectively. So the crisis for me started in the 80s and my position was, how can we connect people who are pushed out, and in the American elections, there was even the term deplorables. And I don't think you remember that Hillary Clinton used that word, and that probably cost her her presidency, that she used this term. While my profession, the way I walk, is that I gladly try to make contact and work together with this, what she called deplorables, so poor people and people that have a lot of resilience to survive. And I said I work with the richness of the poor, because in this idea they are very rich. So what we developed, it's not just my thing, but my whole team, was in this outreach way of looking at these things, how to connect, how to relate, how to work together. So especially the term, let's say, the with mode together, was what we researched, and what was necessary so that people could find themselves in a position that they were respected and in what they actually are capable of. And that all started in 1970. I don't know if you were there, but then was this Brazilian pedagogue philosopher, Paulo Freire, in Amsterdam. And he said to us, it's nice that you're studying and you're students, but you have an obligation. Don't forget the poor. Try to connect with them, and your life will be richer. So I listened very good to him, and since then that was my motto too. So what it brought me here at the moment in Amsterdam is that a lot of people know now that after 40 years of neoliberalism and new public management, people don't want to be client, customers, and consumers anymore. That these were the roles that were promoted. So the idea of human beings being together and working together had almost be reinvented again. So that is what we are doing in all kinds of practices at the moment. And as Menno was at a reading of me about Spinoza, and it's all, I think, it all started there. It started with Bento Spinoza, when he had to struggle with the Ayatollahs of his time, who said you can't think, you shouldn't collect knowledge, because, well, we know what is best for you. And he became very angry and started what actually ended in this beautiful book, The Ethics, which is, let's say, a fundament for my work. It's not easy to read, but there are a lot of books that help you to understand it. And this will be one of the things I will elaborate the 2nd of September. But other things are, sorry, yeah.
And Martin, will you also elaborate about how concrete your study and your work was? What it could activate in, for instance, in Amsterdam. I think it's very important, your expertise and how you build it up for all these years, to see a perspective in the way Crisis Out in a very, very concrete way.
Yeah, so Crisis Out is for me, those people, the deplorables, let's say, of Hillary Clinton, make contact. And one of the projects we developed was that in the social domain, but also in the health and in the education area, to work with let's say, experienced experts. So people that actually had this experience of poverty, for example, and know from the inside out how to develop resilience, but also how to develop relationships with others, and that you can't do things in your own. Right. So this very strong social muscle, almost, I could say, most professionals that are not used to think in terms of we can learn a lot of that. So that's one of the projects we do, that in a lot of practices, for example, social work teams, now experienced experts are together, also paid. And first I thought there are a little stone in the shoe, so that they make the professionals think about that world is a bit different as they thought. But nowadays it's much more acknowledged that they have experiential knowledge with his extra to professional knowledge and scientific knowledge. So it has to find and 1 + 1 + 1 is a third way of seeing the world. So there are all kinds of aspects of emancipation and rebuilding communities, and also rebuilding professions that are happening there. And yeah, that's what I think the main, but it's in an abstract way said, the main thing. The crisis, maybe that's something that I want to say something about, is that people don't think anymore that they can influence their future. So these experiences with experienced experts show the contrary. They show that it's well possible to get your pride back, get your, let's say, subjectivity back, that you can actually handle things in your own life. And well, I think that's very important for the time in which we live now, that people get back from what I said, the client, the consumer and customer mode towards a human mode.
Nah, Martin, it's a beautiful completion of this being together and this exchange, and really looking forward to hear more during the 3rd of September in your lecture. Especially this last part is really, really, I think, very powerful to explore and to support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Martin, for your availability to be here with us. And I'm looking forward also to listen to your lecture in September. And thank you, Menno, for your presence too, such an important presence in this project that is supporting the project in this way. So all of us are supporting the project.
Okay, thank you for your support.
And I thought very beautiful what you said about that in poverty we find richness. This is really, really important.
Yes, it's a lot of yeah. That's my experience. That it's and that let's say it's rebuilding humanity in these relations. So it's I call it a relational turn. It's from this subject-object model in towards togetherness. Yeah.
So, thank you. I appreciate. Have a good weekend. Have a good Saturday.
Okay, same for you.
Yes. See you soon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.